Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, our group will be presenting the differences between approaches, methods, and techniques in TESOL. Our group member consisting of me, Faisal Zulkarnain, Fiarhiana Wijaya, Selsa Dila Yasinta Ayu, Rahma Zandi Satria, and Areta Astalia. So let's get started. Starting from approaches. According to E. Anthony, 1963, cited in J. Richards and T. S. Rogers, 1986, approach refers to the theories about the nature of language and language learning that serve as the source of practices and principles in language teaching. Time has passed, and the structuralist method has been superseded by the new approaches and techniques, but everybody should concede that it was the first really effective way of learning a second language. It proved efficient and practical, although the excessive amount of time devoted to the repetition and imitation often caused unbearable boredom in the long-term student. Drill skills was a popular saying in those days. This method, which obtained from the student an impressive amount of learning in the first month, brought learner eventually to a discouraging standstill, due mainly to a patient lack of imaginative alternatives and failure to recognize the need of progress to freer exercises. In the early 1970s, the Council of Europe launched the threshold level for modern language teaching. This was an ambitious plan which aimed at creating a catalog of basic communicative patterns, called functions and notions, and which could be applied to the teaching and learning of most European languages. The idea was to create a pan-European method which made the learning of any language easier, especially from a communicative perspective. Next. Next, VR will be presenting.
Okay, thank you, Faisal. So the next material is about methods. Method is the level at which theory is put into practice and at which choices are made about the particular skills to be taught, the content to be taught, and the order in which the content will be presented. And there are 9 theory of different methods based on 2 major sources, that is approaches and methods in language teaching by Jack Richard and Theodore, and methods and approaches in language teaching in brief by Kutekin Boran. Next. So the first theory is the oral approach and situation language teaching, emphasized on spoken language teaching in the beginning. The target language is the which points are practiced situationally. After that, the grammar translation method focuses on developing students' appreciation of the language literature and teaching the language. Students are sent with target language, reading passage, and answer questions that follow. And then the audiolingual method is based on the behaviorist belief that language learning is the acquisition of a set of correct language habits. The learner repeats patterns until able to produce them spontaneously. Okay, the next theory will be presented by Arneta.
Okay, thanks. The next is communicative language teaching, CLT, stress the need to teach communicative competence as opposed to linguistic competence. Thus, functions are emphasized over forms. Students usually work with authentic materials in small groups on communicative activities. The next is total physical response (TPR), began by placing primary importance on listening comprehension, emulating the early stage of mother tongue acquisition, and then moving to speaking, reading, and writing. The next is the silent way. Is the theoretical basis of Gatekno that teaching must be subordinate to learning and thus students must develop their own inner criteria for correctness. All four skill reading, writing, speaking, and listening are taught from the beginning. Next slide, please. The next is communicative language learning (CLL). Is the name of a method developed from current application of physiological counseling technique to learning, which is known as counseling learning. The next is suggestopedia, is Losenov method that seeks to help learner eliminate psychological barrier to learner. The next dialogue are present to accompaniment of music. Students just relax and listen to them being read and later playfully practice the language during an activation phase. The next is the direct method, TDM, allows students to perceive meaning directly through the target language taught from the beginning because no translation is allowed. A visual aid and learning material are used to clarify the meaning of the vocabulary items and concepts in real-life language. Its methods or approach has its own strengths. However, in most classroom learning situations, teachers play the important roles in implementing the methods they have been trained to use as well as deciding which one to use and when to use it. The next is will be presented by Celsa.
Techniques. Technique is the level at which classroom procedures are described. Techniques must be consistent with a method and therefore in harmony with an approach as well. Technique is the level at which classroom procedures are described. Techniques must be consistent with a method and they're in harmony with an approach as well. Next slide will be presented by Rahmazani Satria.
Um, in this second article, the researcher using various in teaching like in primary school level, the researcher use spelling, game, demonstration, role playing, reading aloud, and repetition drill that engage students in the lesson content. Then, in the secondary school level, the researcher using brainstorming, pair work, group work, drill, spelling activity, debate, game, and so on. Uh, all right, I think that's all from our group. Thank you for watching. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.